Welcome back to the show, everybody. Starting with our trademark. Followed by another trademark. This is not going to be your typical episode. I have a feeling it's going to be shorter than they usually are, unless I really can pull something out of my butt here. We really tried to sit down and script this one, and just kind of came up with a big bag of fuck all. So, if this episode was an episode of Clone Wars, it would be the title crawl in red, which lets you know it's a real serious one. Yeah, and I even have a name picked out for it because I've just been kind of going back and forth on this episode for the last few days. Yeah, it's not what I wanted to do, which is probably why I, struggled so hard doing the script and kind of figuring out just exactly what I wanted to say here. But we're definitely gonna try and make ass or tea kettle of this whole thing. And just to give you guys a little preview, this episode is about Autumn and what has happened there. Yeah, because I'm sure you all have. Well, I haven't really mentioned her, and especially because the last couple have kind of been all about Carl and the faith and this, that, and the other, right? So she didn't really slot in neatly anywhere into any of those into any of those topics. So I figured I might as well just do one solely for Autumn, and then we can move along from there. But yeah. So let us dig into it. Yeah, we might as well just dig right. We might as well just lay out the Autumn update. I really can't kind of dance around it anymore, especially since there's not a lot to talk about faith-wise like there has been the last few. I think I'm kind of talked out on that subject right now, and there's really no updates. Carl and I's friendship kind of comes and goes in waves, where we're talking all the time, and then it's just kind of like we're meme lords with each other, and then rinse, wash, repeat, right? But freaking voice notes. Why did I lock this one? Oh, excuse me. That was so foul, and I know the mic grabbed it, and I'm so sorry, but am I going to edit it out? Absolutely not. This is the last episode. You guys should have to put up with this shit, because tomorrow we'll have a fancy new piece of gear, and hopefully the show's sound quality will improve that much more. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys here, though. This episode is not going to paint me in a good light by any means. I am the villain 100% in this story, and I'm a fucking coward in it to boot. There's no justifying it or defending it or any of that shit. I decided to handle this situation with Autumn in a very kind of immature and poor way, and I know Autumn definitely ended up hurt. But just so there's no misunderstandings here, this is not like April and I, which was kind of like mutually assured destruction. I think it was. Actually, we're not here to talk about April. This was really me being the worst version of myself and hurting so much. So I guess you guys don't really know kind of what's going on with Autumn, or what was going on with Autumn. Because the last you heard, it was kind of all good. No, the last you heard would have been episode 27, where I was talking about I tried to go back and give it a hoon, and I just ran out of time because this is the last night in the hotel and I wanted to get this one done and in the books, in the bag, so I didn't have to fucking think about this stupid episode anymore, because it's been driving me up the wall that this is kind of what's holding back content creation. So the last you guys kind of heard about autumn, I think, was episode 27, where I was talking about kind of this whole thing where we had this issue where I'm sitting there and this relationship is good and everything seems like it's heading in a direction that I like. And then there was one night I was spending the night and I looked at her and I just kind of thought to myself, like, as great as this is, she's not April. And then I started spiraling from there and thinking about comparing her to April and kind of April and I's relationship when we first got together and blah, 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 blah. Like, it was not a great vibe. And I definitely kind of skullfucked myself on that one. So, yeah. And then it just kind of unwound from there, right? Like, I left her house and then I came back up here, and while I've been up here, she went to Chicago last Friday. And, you know, I kind of had figured, like, okay, well, this isn't fair to her to, like, think that this is going somewhere and is going to turn into a relationship when I'm in my head about April, and I'm thinking about April the whole time I'm with her and this and blah, 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 blah. That's not fair to her, because she was very upfront with me and she was very clear with what she was looking for. And I thought I was, and then it turned out that, oopsie, I'm full of shit and I was lying to myself. So, and you know, we'll circle back around to this at the end of the episode, but let's just kind of get it out of the way early on. This is another fantastic case of Carl being right and me choosing to ignore sage advice that she had for me. So that is my own failing, shock horror. But so yeah, as that week progressed, right, and that week being this week that we're currently living, I kind of, oh no, that was last week because she left last Friday. So anyway, as that weekend kind of progressed, right, like, I'm trying to fake it and pretend that there's nothing wrong, and it's not going well because she called me out on it pretty early on, and I kind of dodged the question and danced around it a little bit because, like, by that point she was in Chicago, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do this while you're in fucking Chicago and ruin your vacation. Like, that's such a dickhead move, which, foreshadowing, spoiler alert, it got, if that had been what I had done, that would have been better than what I actually did. So, yeah, she's a smart little cookie, and she had figured it out pretty quickly that I was pulling away and that I wasn't showing her the same level of affection and attention that I had been just a week prior. So, and I can't help but compare this to how April treated me, because as many episodes as I've sat in front of a fucking microphone and talked about how shitty it was, how she withdrew all affection and stopped acting like she cared and stopped giving a shit and stopped showing me that she wanted to be with me. As shitty as I know that feels, I turned around and did it to someone else. So I don't know what that fucking says about me. Probably not a lot of good things, honestly. The least offensive of which is that Carl is right and I probably should not have been dating. And this is not a fun one to record, guys. Like, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Like, so we might as well just get to the meat and potatoes of what happened, what I did that is just so awful. But so like the adult thing to do would have been to just kind of be straight up with her and tell her like, I don't really feel like I'm ready to be dating, and it's not fair to you to expect me to be able to commit to this like relationship when I'm just not there mentally, and try and save her from a lot of hurt, and that we should, and tell her like, hey, I think we should maybe call it for now because I'm just not there yet, and I'm not able to match what you're looking for. I thought I was, and I'm unfortunately not. So that's what I should have done. But like I said, she was in Chicago for vacation, and it felt wrong to like send her a voice note when she's in the States and be like, say all that while she's in trying to have a good time. So I really, like I said, I really tried to soldier on and just kind of like pretend, hey, everything's okay, like we'll deal with this when you get back, blah blah blah. And then like I said, she figured it out pretty quick. So instead of doing any of what I just said, I took the coward's way out, and I just kind of ghosted her. And like, don't think I don't see the hypocrisy. Absolutely, like dick punching me right now. Like, for all this big talk about communication and how important it is and blah blah blah, when it came time to actually communicate with someone on the level that I expect and I'm saying I want, I couldn't do it. And I took the easy way out. And that relationship, I was so worried about hurting her and her, like, because of my lack of readiness to be dating. And I kind of turned it into a self-fulfilling prophecy where she just kind of got hurt because of me. And then we come on the script anyway. I tried to script this out on, what day is it? It's Thursday. So I tried to script this out on Tuesday, and I couldn't deal with it. And then Wednesday. I tried to do this yesterday, and I just couldn't make Aster Tea Kettle of it. So if there's a tonal difference between this first half of this first section of the podcast and the rest of it, that is because I finished the rest of the script tonight. So, you know what? That's kind of a good place to break here briefly, just because this fucking sucks to talk about, and I'm already annoyed and bummed out that I have to. I don't have to. I'm choosing to reveal my poor behavior to the world, but we will return shortly, y'all. All right, and we are back. Sorry, this this podcast might have more intermissions than normal, for reasons I'm not getting into right now. But where were we? The tonal difference. Yes, I really did try to write this all out yesterday, and I just decided I wasn't in the right headspot for it, and then shock fucking horror, I was drunk. So but anyway, moving right along. It's annoying more than anything that I can't seem to figure myself out here. Like, I say I want a relationship, and I find one, and immediately sabotage it. And then I say I want to, like, potentially recommit to the faith, and I start to do it and immediately find a reason not to. And, like, am I this wishy-washy? Like, why is it really this hard for me to make a decision and commit to it? Like, I didn't think this is who I was. And again, we kind of come back to this idea of, like, well, who are you? You don't know who you are. And this is all very ill-timed because I kind of have to take a break from therapy here, being up at the out-of-town job, because it's just too difficult to kind of schedule that and keep it going with Jilly when I'm in this hotel 5 days a week with no fucking basically no internet well, there's internet obviously because I do the podcast from here, but like the Wi-Fi here is so terrible. Like it honestly takes, and listen to me whine about this when I'm talking about something so serious. But yes, this is very all ill-timed when I very much am, not very much, but I'm planning on taking a break from therapy, and it could not come at a worse time when I just decide to be the biggest piece of shit well, that's debatable. Since I've been single, this is definitely not the worst thing I've done, but it's also not the best thing, I have to say. So, sorry guys, we are congested. We're stuffed up again. It was just a day of more silica dust. So, oh yeah, like, sorry, being a bad host. Like I know why I wanted to end things with autumn. Like I wasn't, and I'm still fully not over like April. It's gotten a lot easier since I decided to say goodbye to her the other week and block her on everything, and there isn't this like worry of when is she gonna communicate with me again. Like she has the option, but if I know her like I think I do, that goodbye probably infuriated her, and she wants nothing to do with me right now. And maybe ever again. I don't know. And at this, I don't. It's hard to. It's hard to say that like I don't care, but at the same time, it's also like I do care, but I don't, because if she cared, she would show me blah, 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 but it doesn't matter. April is excised from my life, and she knows what I want if she wants to come back into it. I've made it very clear in one of the episodes here. I can't remember 20 whatever, but yes, I've made some progress in that area, just knowing that I made the decision to go no contact with April and kind of just say, you know what, like until you can meet me halfway, this doesn't work for me, and I'm not going to live this way. So that has helped a lot, honestly. It's nice to not have to open my phone and see that I have a notification on iMessage that is from her, and blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, enough about April. This is about autumn. There was the worry about our lifestyle differences would be blah, Jesus. I got a little too into the piss here before I started recording this because I was hoping it would just help me kind of vamp and pad out the script because I just couldn't finish it nicely. But yeah, there was the worry about our lifestyle differences and like, would that be a problem down the line? Because she came from a very wealthy family and was accustomed to having a lot of money around. And not that I'm not, because like my dad is fairly well off, but at the same time, my dad's pretty old school in that he does help me out if I directly ask, like, hey, I am fucked right now. I need this, that, or the other. But for the most part, my dad is very content to kind of just let me figure my shit out myself and make my own money and blah, 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 and manage it to the best of my abilities. So very, very different socioeconomic backgrounds, which presented itself in like the weirdest of ways. Like we were talking one night and I said, I got Pizza Hut while I was out of town, and I don't always forget, but it's still like sticker shock every time I get Pizza Hut, where I'm like, why the fuck is this so expensive? Because it was like $27, and she was like, oh, is that a lot? And that was kind of a little red flag for me. So, And like our lived experiences too, like she just kind of, I felt like eventually it would get to a point where we just couldn't relate to each other because like I come from this like broken home and I had this fucking traumatic childhood and all this drama and trauma in my formative years, and her family is all still together and very happy and very healthy and blah blah blah. So I it just very felt it blah, blah, blah. It very much felt like just two very different. No, what am I trying to say here? We were just too different. And then there was all the little things like she like loved to travel and wanted to always be traveling and had taken a trip every month, blah 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 blah. And I'm not that guy. Like I really could give a fuck about traveling at this point in my life. Like it would be nice if I had the financial freedom to do it, but I don't. So I just kind of don't really worry about it where I'm not. It's not something that's even on my radar to think about like, oh, where's the next trip? Like blah blah blah. I would much rather spend my money on other things like stuff for the podcast, Lego, tech stuff, blah, 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 right? So we were never really going to meet in the middle of that because it just kind of seems like a waste of money to me to spend all these thousands of dollars just to go somewhere for a few weeks and then come home. So, and these are all that's very nitpicky, I know, but I don't know. After January, like I was talking to Caillou about this today. Like, I'm just kind of weirdly picky in certain areas. Like, some stuff I'm so willing to let slide if your personality is there and the effort is there and blah, blah, blah. But other stuff, like, I will not budge on. So, and I didn't write this down, but I'm just thinking of it now. Like, we had quite a difference between us in politics. And initially, I kind of thought I could work with it and like I did it with January for fucking 10 years. So I'm no stranger to having a partner whose politics don't match yours. But the more the language she used and the more we kind of talked about it, like I was like, this is not really what I want in a partner. And I'm kind of not interested in settling again and putting up with a bunch of shit I don't agree with just for the sake of keeping a happy relationship. So at some point that would have blown up in our faces too. And this is obviously not an episode to just kind of sit here and dissect her various failings, but just like I did want to end things just because I could see like, oh, this is not going to work out. Unfortunately, it's just the way of life. Sometimes shit just doesn't line up as much as, you like somebody. And like, these are all things I could have talked about with her in person and seen, is there a way to kind of work this stuff out? And can we navigate through this mess? And instead of doing that, like, this aversion to conflict that I have kind of reared its ugly head, and we chose this very less honorable route. And like, honestly, this episode has been very difficult to script, and that's why it's kind of busted up into two parts here, is because like, I know it's something I need to talk about and work out, and the podcast is kind of the place I do that. But I just kind of haven't wanted to look it in the eye and confront it like head on. And like, who really wants to sit down and talk about, hey, I was a fucking piece of shit and somebody got really hurt because of it, because I'm a coward and can't put my money where my mouth is in some areas, and I knew this was going to happen and I chose to ignore it, and here we are. So like, this is a tough one to record, and this was a tough one. This was very difficult to try and script out, honestly, even with all the liquor I have access to. Like, it wasn't even writer's block. I just did not want to deal with it. And this is my kind of attempt at doing that. Like, I have to deal with it. I have to talk about it because it was a very, very bad choice and it was handled very poorly by me. And I can't pretend that didn't happen. And I don't know. But like I said, nobody really wants to sit down and be like, guys, I was a stone cold piece of shit. So that's a tough one. And like I can't even really plead ignorance. Like I didn't know this was going to happen, because I did know. I knew something like this would happen sooner or later. It was basically as soon as I realized, like, oh, I shouldn't be fucking with you. And that was that day that I was with her, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, you're not April. You're not April. And I should have known right then and there that, well, that's a fucking mistake. And then kind of done something about it from that point on. And I just didn't. I chose to pretend that I didn't have that thought. And, and then Carl and I talked about it ad nauseum, and she very sternly and like in no uncertain terms, there was no pussyfooting around. She was telling me like something like this is going to happen because, and we talked about this in another episode where I was like, Carl said like hurt people. And she was 100% right. Like, here we are. I'm a hurt person who hurt someone. So, and I kind of chose to just ignore her and pretend that I know best. But I knew deep down, like, this is going to be the outcome, is that Autumn is going to get hurt. And it all could have been avoided if I would just admit to myself, if I would have just admitted to myself, like, you're still not ready. You're putting the horse before the cart here, fellas. So why don't you take a step back and just kind of try and figure some shit out? And instead of that, I did this and kind of feel bad and made a self-fulfilling prophecy out of something I was worried about. So, excuse me. And I guess kind of I need to take a step back and kind of take an introspective look into what is kind of going on in my head, because I do need to kind of noodle on this and think about it and learn from it and take some lessons from it and hope that whatever I learn, I can use to avoid making this mistake in the future. But like, luckily for me, I've got this drive back to the city tomorrow. That might take 3 times as long because we got a millimeter of snow and everybody in the fucking province forgot how to drive. Excuse me. And then, the whole weekend, because other than picking up the Roadcaster on Friday, like, I don't have a ton of plans. So I have a lot of time to just kind of sit and think, like, what do we learn from this? Wow, how could we have changed this outcome? How could we have avoided this? And it's really hard also to script in the hotel room because it's very cramped. It's not cramped, but it's really not conducive to like sitting down and writing, especially with some of the furniture provided. But we're gonna try and get in a different room next week. We'll see. And then, so the hotel room's not really set up for me to kind of sit down and do writing for a little bit. And then by the time I decide, okay, fuck, it's time to do some scripting, like, I'm fucking half in the bag at that point and fully not in the right mindset to be sitting down and trying to script something like this out because I'm fucking drunk. So, but I just had the urge tonight because I want to get this done. I didn't want this episode to be the first one I did on the Roadcaster, and I didn't want it to be one I had to do once I was home when I'm trying to just kind of enjoy the weekend. And so, nose to the grindstone here, like, let's just get it fucking done. And yeah, I have written here, like, I just want to get this episode over and done so I can move on. And I'm also kind of really relying on Podcast Me, which is me, to fill in a lot of the gaps that I'm leaving that I left in the script, because like I honestly didn't know what to say here beyond I feel the need to kind of share that I was a stone cold piece of shit here and someone got hurt because of it. And Like, I did it knowingly, which makes it that much worse, because I probably should have ended things as soon as I had that that fucking April realization looking at her. And I should have ended it when Carl was giving me this lecture, and I realized she was right, and I probably really shouldn't be dating because something like this was going to happen. And Autumn doesn't deserve this. She didn't deserve what I did to her. Like, nobody deserves that, but especially her, because like her only mistake was thinking that I was funny and cute and getting tangled up with me. And I should have known better, and here we are. But it's very much another point in the W column for Carl for yet again being fucking right, although I'm sure that's just kind of either a bittersweet or a Pyrrhic victory for her, honestly. But and then I just kind of have I'm going to stop scripting here and hope Podcast Me can come up with something on the fly. So thanks me from 2 hours ago for really throwing current me under the bus. But yeah, like, Autumn had no idea what she was getting mixed up in. None of these fucking girls do. And like, yeah, we're moving and grooving and making good progress to kind of getting over April here, which is lovely, because I really was tired of thinking about her. But I was tired of thinking about her because there was no forward motion in any other aspect of that. It was just kind of stalled out and stagnant, and it was going to stay that way, honestly. So this, I don't know if I forced her hand, but I just decided I wasn't playing the game anymore, basically. So, yeah, like, oof, I don't know how many different ways I can say, like, Autumn really didn't deserve this, and it's really not fair to her, I know. And if I was any kind of man, I would fucking unblock her and send her an apology, but I really don't want to fucking deal with it, honestly. Yeah, this is just a conflict aversion that I still very clearly need to work on. So, script didn't fully get us to where I would normally want the show to be, but honestly, at this point, I think that's about all we're really gonna squeeze out of this topic. And then, I don't know, I don't really feel like we worked through anything or accomplished anything here, but kind of beyond kind of just talking about, well, I kind of sucked here, and I fucked up and I did a bad thing, and hopefully this is the last time, and I'll learn a lot of lessons from this, and I won't ever put somebody in this position again to be so easily hurt by me. But I also make no promises, like, not that I intentionally and maliciously seek that out, but I don't know, I just seem to not learn a lesson despite repeated tutorials in it. So, bit of a weird one, guys? It kind of much more somber and serious. I'm not going to do all the end of the episode housekeeping. I'm just kind of done talking about this and thinking about it, and it's easy for me to say when I'm not the one who's hurt, but honestly, I don't know. I feel really bad, and I don't want to deal with it, and I don't want to think about it. So we will call that an episode, all 34 minutes of it. Bit of a shorter one, but hopefully tomorrow I can come back with some, or no, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not Saturday either, actually, and definitely not Sunday, but I don't know. At some point this weekend, I will sit down and find time to record. If there's any of you left after hearing what a fucking dickhole I am. But until the next episode, I hope you guys are having a good evening, morning, or afternoon, whatever time it is for you. And I will catch you, mob, in the next episode. Hooroo.